Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. In a world where action movies are constantly exploding at the box office, our heroes take on the monumental task of dissecting and analyzing all aspects of action movies to truly understand what it takes to make a great action film. Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, in a Popcorn Talk Network exclusive. This is Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom! Welcome to the show! Woo. Welcome to the show! It's like the game GoldenEye from the 90s!
Just like the game!
It's so exciting! A headshot with a silencer. I'm gonna come around this corner. Oh, I missed the shot. Now I'm gonna... Okay.
Now you're
With
dead.
your finger
Yeah.
gun?
Yeah.
You're very intimidating.
Pew!
There's one thing I wish right now, and that is that my hair was just like flowing as Pierce Brosnan's.
I wanted to have his huge, he has the white guy fro.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The best part is that when we were talking about doing this movie and I was like thinking about what Pierce Brosnan looked like, in my head his hair was like this big. When I looked, it's actually just like pretty small.
Basically the same as what you thought it was.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's
very
very-
pretty human.
He's very... Look, it's my duty to talk about handsome men on the show.
It is.
We'll do it later when we talk about Daniel Craig with his shirt off, so let's just wait on that, okay, Kathy?
His iconic Speedo scene.
His
if you will.
iconic Speedo scene. That or Halle Berry in Die Another Day. I'm not sure which one. Okay, never mind. That was a joke. Let's get into the show. This is Action Movie Anatomy on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network dedicated to talking movies and all things movie related. I am your host, James Bond, joined to...
Who is that?
I don't even know what accent that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I drop the tone of my voice whenever I do it.
Your host, James Bond.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Andrew Ghai, straight out of Squeech, London.
Can I have some more powered, sir? This is Andrew Ghai. He's got a tie clip today, and he looks like freaking James Bond.
This is my Bond. This is my Quantum of Solace Bond.
Yeah, right. They
They
were
were
like
Casino Royale.
they did the black and white, and then they were like, now we got to make him more advanced. He's got to be more fashion forward. He can't be just tuxedo anymore.
No.
I like your tie clip a lot.
Thank you.
Very envious.
It came with the package. I don't know what that means.
All
But do you have a watch to show off?
Yeah.
Do you really?
No, I didn't bring a watch today.
I didn't bring my Omega today. Okay. Also, we have Cathy Kelley. She's over here on the left side.
Hi!
She's back. She's back. She's returned. She was here on the Taken episode ages ago. It feels like now,
Yeah.
right?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It was
what
like
a fun
6 years
episode
ago,
that was.
I think.
And I don't think it was
we've
quite
been
that
on-
long.
We've been
Oh.
on for about 6 years
My
now.
gauge of time is not always the best.
Right.
So.
Your laugh on that episode was infectious.
It was.
Thanks.
Very infectious laugh.
Yeah, there's a point in that episode, if you guys remember watching this, where it's right at the beginning and Andrew makes a joke and you
So funny.
burst out laughing. It's like the best response that anything we've ever done on the show has had. So when we were thinking about cutting together like the sizzle reel for this show, which we're probably going to do, that
put
will
in
probably
Just
be in
replay
there.
my laugh
That's
over
it.
and over and over again.
It's going to be like, how is what he said not the funniest thing ever? Because you're laughing so hard. So yeah, we're doing Casino Royale, guys. Full disclosure, we went and saw Spectre. We were planning on doing Spectre.
Oh, yeah.
We changed our mind. It was an okay movie where our expectations were lofty, and this is an awesome movie, so we just figured we would do this movie instead.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What the hell? Like, I was very excited to see Spectre. I thought
Yeah.
it was gonna be really sweet. The advertising looked good, and it didn't look like they were gonna do what they did with the Brosnan series.
Right.
Which is what happened in this series. Is the movies are regressing as they come out.
I feel like that's one of those things, though, with Bond films, is if you have really high expectations, it's always going to be a letdown. And when you go into it and you don't necessarily think that it's going to be good, especially when they have the new Bonds, like with Daniel Craig's first one, you end up being pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and then maybe that's what this show will do for you guys as our audience, is that we're like, we didn't really like Spectre, and your expectations will get even lower, and then you'll go see it and you'll love it.
And you'll think it's really cool.
I
let's
hope that's what happens.
Let's not start theorizing too much because we do have some things we want to share on that. But before we get into it, I should remind everybody they will actually be doing Spectre on Anatomy of a Movie, which is like our sister podcast, other show they do. It's very closely related to what we do, and they do it on Fridays every single week. So they will be covering that on Anatomy of a Movie. Also, please give us ratings and reviews on iTunes and on YouTube because it helps us do the show. And
5
we
stars.
continue to provide content, and we love doing it, but it is very helpful if we can get some feedback from you guys, and it keeps us high in the ratings so that the show keeps happening.
We just like reading it.
Yeah, also that.
Just fun.
We enjoy interacting with you guys, and
Makes their egos just grow.
It does.
Yeah, really? That's why we do it?
We should do it straight to the head. Our heads are getting large.
So that your hair can be as great as Pierce Brosnan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cathy Kelley. So this is, the Casino Royale episode. I think we should probably just show the trailer first.
We should.
To the film, and we can react to it, and we can chat over it. Oh man, look at him. He's in black and white.
He's so black and white.
It takes two.
He's just the chief of low status. You guys really don't like that accent.
Yes, he's a chief 00. He's coming right in.
Second is yes.
Yes, I was hoping you'd join me for supper.
Yes, I was hoping you'd join me for supper.
Okay, Andrew.
Just trying to show you how it's done, mate.
The world's terrorists, which would explain how he could set up a high.
I love Judi Dench in this movie. I love that she was so good in the Brosnan
Dame
ones.
Judi Dench.
They were like, we're just gonna bring her back. It doesn't matter. The timeline doesn't make any sense.
Oh man, look at all these people talking.
I know.
This is exciting.
But if you lose,
Oh,
You should
whoa.
read the comment about the tie.
government will then
Guy wins the look. Poor Ben and his big bow tie. Okay, guys. Okay.
They also referred to you guys as Jonas Brothers.
I saw that. That's good.
Thanks, guys, for dressing up for a Bond movie.
I would like to be Nick Jonas, I think, if I have to be a Jonas,
Jonas
brother.
Brothers? You're not Nick Jonas. Get out of here.
Dude, I look just like him. We have the same body type, same haircut.
You'd be the Jonas brother that didn't make the band.
I'd be the adopted Jonas brother.
You're the one that got married, and people are like, oh, he's not single anymore. Get
I'm
him
like
out of
Will
here.
Smith's oldest son that's like 20-something and no one knows about him because all they
He
care
has an
about
older son.
Yeah. An older son, really?
Exactly. I'm Beyonce's sister. I'm Solange.
Okay. Out of 4,
You're the Osborne
Sean
that
Bean.
didn't make the Osborne joke.
Hate this.
Gotta see the ranking graphic.
This is a great movie, by the way.
Yeah, what have we been talking about today? Oh, that scene's
Oh, that
so
scene
good.
makes
So
me want to
good.
cry.
It's a really good scene.
Underwater tears.
Top 25, top 10, probably. Oh my gosh. Treadstone. Jeez, I love this conversation.
I know.
That was. You guys are the best. I'm so distracted. Putting a smile on my face. I'm so distracted. Putting a smile on my face. Do you know my accent that I actually do really is though? It's that one line from the live version of Sultans of Swing by the Dire Straits, where Mark Knopfler goes, "Okay, let's have a go at single. It's a song about a jazz band partly. This song is called the Sultans of Swing." And every time I do a British accent, it's just Mark Knopfler
just
from the
that
Dire
accent.
Straits. Yeah, that's what it is. You're damn right, bow ties are cool.
Yeah, that hasn't come through yet on
Is that a
mine.
clip on?
I think you just wrote that.
No. Okay.
It's a clip on.
It's a good one. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Oh, and here's a scene from the. This is our ultimate action scene. We're playing it at the beginning though because we think it fits better with the show.
We were thinking
have it at
because
the
we want to
beginning.
harken back to it many times in the show.
Do you mind if I join you?
You nailed his accent.
Yeah. Mind if I join you?
$10,000 minimum bet. King for you, sir. The 3 for you.
This is so good.
That's so funny.
My mom didn't let me watch
17.
Austin Powers when I was little.
Oh really?
She said it was too raunchy.
It is.
That's all I wanted to get at Blockbuster.
Someone called me Ashley Simpson. Just want to just put that out.
You have 17, sir.
The pieces of you.
I like to live
I like
dangerously.
to live dangerously.
You have 17,
4,
sir.
21.
5.
5. I'll stay,
This is snortworthy.
It's noteworthy.
sir.
I also like to live dangerously.
As you wish, sir.
Do you think that Austin Powers is in the 10 greatest comedy characters of all
He
time?
beats your 5.
20 beats your 5. I'm sorry, sir.
Never lie to you.
Yeah.
They're not my
So
bag.
memorable.
No,
like,
he's got it. I mean, dude, he's
movies made an
he's
obscene
one of the
amount of
biggest
money.
of all time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No?
Yeah, no.
I definitely think he is. Okay, that is the trailer and a scene from the film Austin Powers, which is a great scene. Let's get into the show, guys. So what we do here on the show is we start out with something called Thesis Statement. This is going to be our chance to make a bold statement about the film. That should not be loose. This should be rooted in hyperbole. The best, the greatest, the first, one of the 3 times ever, something like that. Should not be like, my favorite Bond because of his ties or something like that. I mean, I would never say
Oh
that.
shoot! I have to rewrite.
Oh no! You can get
Take
real
a
deep with it. However you want to
break.
do it. We like it when you guys share with us. We do have a Twitter now. You can tweet at us personally or the Twitter. It's at AMA Podcast. I'm at Ben Bateman Media.
At Andrew Ghai.
at Catherine Kelley.
So if you want to just get at us outside
very
of the
excited
chat,
about her on Twitter.
you can just let us know. But let's get into our thesis statements. I'm going to select our special guest, Ms. Catherine Kelley, to go first this week.
Okay. My thesis statement is the least anticipated yet best executed Bond film.
Interesting.
Because of the disappointment of Die Another Day, that people were just like,
Right.
James Bond's done. And then this movie blew everyone's
Well, I think it was
minds.
also the fact that prior to Daniel Craig joining the franchise, everyone was just crapping on him so much for how he looked and that he wasn't going to be a good
Too
lead in a
blonde,
Bond
too young.
film, and that he was. I mean, people were saying that he was ugly. Like
His ears.
that he,
There was a lot of criticism. His ears were too big.
He has
And-
those large canals.
Yeah.
I think that just like this film especially put all of that to rest. Like everyone just ate their words with what they were saying about him prior to him joining the Bond franchise. And I don't know, we see a lot of differences in this movie than we've seen in the Bond franchises before, just because there is less sex. While it is still a sexy movie,
Right.
there's a lot less of that. He's more vulnerable in certain scenes, which we can talk about later. And then there's still a lot of like badass scenes, like the chase scenes and the fighting, oh my god,
This movie's
Opening
a
scene
great
is
movie.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Like it's a lot of lists have this as the greatest Bond film ever. This is
I mean-
like IGN I think did one. This is really high. It's like people, because it's sort of recent, are like a little unwilling to budge on it. But when it first came out, I mean, it was like top film of the year for a lot of people.
For me, it's like this one and Goldfinger are my favorites. I
the
think.
two.
Yeah.
Goldfinger's classic. Yeah, I mean, him and Brosnan are the two most generationally specific Bonds that have been out there. And we had this conversation the other night, like me and a bunch of other people, because we were talking about Spectre. It's like, in the 90s, Brosnan's exactly what you wanted out of Bond. He was smooth and funny and like,
He had the hair.
He had the hair, the excellent turban of hair. And then Craig is
mane.
like exactly what we want now. It's more real, it's more intense, it's more gritty, it's more raw.
I don't know why, but Daniel Craig to me is now a better Bond than Pierce Brosnan was.
I
Just because
completely agree.
for me, when I think of Pierce Brosnan, I think of Thomas Crown Affair. I think of him as the maybe dad in Mamma Mia. Like I don't see Bond, even though he is
Matador.
like, if you picture Bond, that is who you picture. But Daniel Craig he brings that extra element to it where he is Bond. Like prior to him being in the franchise, I had really only seen him in Layer Cake.
Right.
And he did a great job at that. So like he is that character.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Daniel Craig as James Bond. What do you got for your thesis, Andrew?
I went ahead and said that this movie is the epitome of less is more in filmmaking.
Yeah, so they just stripped away all the crap.
Everything. All the crap that was what made Bond Bond.
And replaced it
they
with a
took
Sony
out.
Ericsson phone.
Yeah, Sony Ericsson phone.
I
and
mean,
a Sony
even
Vaio.
the line of shaken not stirred, it's, do you want it shaken or stirred? And he's like, do I look like I care?
Yeah. It's great. And that's exactly what that line is, the definition of this whole movie in the franchise. Is they go against all the rules, they change everything up, there's no money penny, there's no Q.
Right.
And it's still, for me, God, I don't know, top 3 Bond movies.
Top
of
3
all
Bond
time.
movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, after watching it again this time, because I hadn't seen this movie since it was in theaters, and I think after watching it again, I can't think of a Bond movie I've enjoyed more. Like, I have a real soft spot for the Timothy Dalton movies. There's a part of me that loves the campiness of GoldenEye because it was like the game, we grew up with it.
Totally.
But for the most part, I mean, there's a couple good moments in the Connery movies. They've aged, though. I think just on a scene-to-scene basis, how memorable it is, this is probably my favorite James Bond movie.
Now, do you think that's because of who we are as an audience now, though?
Oh, and that's going to actually speak to my thesis. So I'll jump with mine now as well, which is that, so 3 times in my lifetime, I mean, I was born in 1988, and the first Dalton movie was made in 87. So 3 times in my lifetime has James Bond, I mean, loosely in my lifetime, been rebooted. And each time they've gone with a slightly more gritty, a little bit darker, a little bit more bare bones James Bond. So the first one, I think, was The Living Daylights. The second one was GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan, and then you had this movie. And every one of those times, it's the best film that actor made as James Bond, and each film regressed. So License to Kill was not quite as good as Living Daylights. And you had Tomorrow Never Dies was worse, World's Not Enough was worse, and Die Another Day was absolutely awful.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Quantum of Solace is totally unmemorable.
Yeah.
They had Sam Mendes direct the last 2, and he's the guy that directed American Beauty. What do you have the American Beauty director and Revolutionary Road directing James Bond movies?
That's exactly how I thought when his name popped up on the screen with Spectre. I was like, wait, really? He's doing this one as well? Like, really? This is going to happen right now?
Didn't they learn their lesson?
That's what I was hoping.
Yeah, right. So I think it's each time, it's sort of what you're saying with less is more. Each time they strip it down, they give you the best version they can think of, and that's the best time that actor ever played James Bond.
And it's happened in this franchise, this series, this Bond as well.
Yeah, 100%.
With this one, to Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, which was like, it was good, but it wasn't like, it wasn't that super memorable, but I think it was more memorable because Javier Bardem was good, and he's good in everything.
He's a great villain.
And the things that happened with M and all that, but Spectre just felt cheap. It felt like the Die Another Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the series.
It felt forgettable, like a throwaway movie. Like you're using every Bond cliche you can think of.
There was not one moment through any of the intensity in it where I was like, oh my God, there's actually something at stake here. Something bad could actually happen. It was just like, okay, this is going to happen to this point, and then they're going to get away.
Which is like Casino to a T. I found the whole time I was like, all those scenes you're talking about, him being vulnerable, the action, like the stakes are real.
Yeah, him falling in love, him dying.
The stakes are real.
Oh yeah, he died for a couple seconds.
Yeah, I love that.
It's
I love
awesome.
that he dies.
I also like Bess Berlin way more this time through. I didn't think she was that hot the first time, and then watching her this time, I was like, man, that girl's beautiful.
I think it's also how smart she is. Like, she is a boss, and that's something that we haven't really seen with a lot of the former Bond girls. They aren't able to match James Bond's intellect, and she really challenged him in that regard.
We were sitting there watching it, and in the very first scene, because she's introduced an hour into the movie, and it's because we were doing the outline, and we were wondering who is the second person that we should use as our star A and our star B profile, and we were like, maybe it'll be Judi Dench, but it might be Ava Green, and she comes out in that first 2 minutes that she's on screen, kills it.
Yeah.
That exchange they have on the plane is perfectly written and perfectly acted.
It's a train, isn't it? Or is it a plane?
It's a plane.
I thought it was a plane.
Is it a plane?
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was a train.
You get all three of these movies.
Some kind of
mixed up.
automobile.
Yeah,
there's a
because the train is a
on
lot in the
Spectre.
Skyfall, or Spectre, yeah.
Fuck!
So many names!
Yeah, all right. So cool. That's our thesis statements. If you guys have your own that you want to share, let's do that also. But let's get into our fist pump moment. So this is that moment when you're watching the movie and you look around you because something happens, and that thing that happens is so sweet. It could be anything. It could be a headshot. It could be like a longing look between a father and his son. It could be the credits, the music at the end of the film, anything. And something happens. You look around. You're like, God, is anybody else feeling this right now? Are you guys seeing this? This is so awesome. That's a fist pump moment. So that's what we're going to share right now is each of our fist pump moments in the film. Did you like my pitch?
I did.
Did you get into it?
I was like, I could feel the adrenaline pumping.
Did you feel something?
I felt something.
And a fist pump coming on.
Stakes are real. Let's get into our fist pump moments, guys.
Dude, car flip.
For you, 100%.
Hands down, 100%. Like, he just realizes, like, Mathis isn't my friend, whatever. And then you see her get kidnapped, and then he's just in his Aston Martin flying down the road, you know? And I think for me it was just like I would kill her in that situation.
Like not intentionally.
Not intentionally, but like, I'm not Bond.
Roadkill.
Yeah, it would have just been like I would have come around the corner, she would have been there like, oh shit, and then crash that way.
Our chat wants us to know it's a train. I was right. Keep going.
Oh. I also so I've wanted an Aston Martin since the Italian Job,
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right.
I've wanted an Aston Martin forever. Yeah. And this film just like solidified it too.
Oh, absolutely.
I like almost cried when the car flipped over.
It's such a cool looking car in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
Apparently, Daniel Craig couldn't drive a stick shift until he joined the franchise.
Had to learn.
Yeah, that's what I learned on. So
I remember watching Entourage around that time, and there's like an episode where they all he's like, let's get Bond cars, and like all buy Aston Martins, and it's just like that was like such a cool thing at the time. That's like one thing about this movie too. See, I was living in Seattle at the time, working for Nordstrom, selling suits, right? And like store one, it's the first Nordstrom store, so they're very, very particular about. They want everything to be current.
Yeah.
They want it to be very sort of like New York fashion, and it's hard to do in Seattle because it's just not the city for that. But so constantly,
everyone just has outfits for coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Like North Face jackets and stuff. I mean, you're from the Northwest as well. You know how it goes. Yeah. But at that store, it was very much about that. So we would have the Nordstrom brothers like come down all the time. And so we all had to be dressed in this certain way, and the suits we were selling, all the fashion we were promoting. And I really remember this movie coming out and like people coming in and really wanting like a Daniel Craig looking James Bond suit because Tom Ford designed the suits for this film. It had been Brioni, but prior to that, which was much more of like an old man sort of luxury suit brand.
Any Tom Ford suit just
looks killer. Yeah, it looks fantastic. So I just remember like everything from, well, except for the Sony Ericsson phone. That was the biggest. Watching this, I was like, really?
There was some technology in it where I'm like,
A little dated.
Like Sony went all in on this movie.
You might as well just get like a flip phone or
yeah. Well, because in the first scene, like the guy's got like that like Nokia and it's got the ellipsis, and you're like, okay, well he's like some sort of like a parkour badass.
It's like a throwaway phone.
Yeah, it's like a burner, and then like Bond is like, I have this sweet Sony Ericsson phone, and I remember the iPhone I think came out that year, like 06. I want to say it came out in 06 or 07. So I'm sure if this was 2 years later, it would have been all Apple products, and he would have had some iPhone looking phone.
And if it had been a year or two earlier, it would have been a Razor.
Yeah, right.
I know, when you go back and watch The Matrix, the phones that you thought were so sweet, not sweet at all.
Except the phones in The Matrix are still sweeter than his Sony Ericsson.
I mean, but it's one of those things where in time, like if you look back to past Bond films and you have like car phones or something, like that's still freaking cool. Like,
Totally. Yeah,
this was a cutting edge Sony Ericsson.
Yeah, no, we were talking about, we were like, there's no way the graphics on the thing are actually that smooth. That's totally rendered.
It's all rendered.
That's like rendered for the film. It's like, let's just take this Sony Ericsson. Like, I just loved it. He's on a Sony Vaio laptop later.
Of course. Vios were on top of the world.
Yeah, 06. It was a big deal. Apple hadn't, the iPhone hadn't just decimated the entire world's like technology market yet.
No. They destroyed 3 of those Aston Martins in that scene, just to let you know. $300,000, not a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that still like a top 3 car for you guys that you'd want to own, you think? That Bond car?
I don't know. There's so many sweet cars now.
There's a lot of good cars.
I'd probably take John Wick's car over that car.
I don't know that I would want to drive a car that nice just because I'd be so terrified. I would go like 5 miles per hour on the highway.
You're like really bad at parallel parking. You would just like ding the bumper every time.
I'm actually really good at parallel parking, but I would be terrified.
I would be scared.
I don't know why I assumed you weren't. Let's let's get into the next thing. So, I didn't even share. Did we just share one fist pump?
It was just mine.
You did yours.
That's how good it was.
And we got into it so much because of the car.
So fist pump worthy.
Cathy Kelley, what's your fist bump moment?
For this Bond film and every Bond film, it is always the opening sequence.
It's a really
when they have
good
a song
opening
and
sequence.
I'm like,
first one without
it's a Bond film. And I sing just like that, and it's awkward, but like thankfully I was by myself when I watched this one, so. Yeah!
Someone just reminded me the iPhone came out in 08, 09. I think that actually is correct.
Is it?
Yeah, for some reason I was thinking it was earlier, but now that I remember it, I think...
I remember my buddy sitting in class with it when I was in high school. Anyway, that really doesn't matter.
But the whole idea that the movie came out and it was so hot for the next year or two, that would make sense in 08 that I think I was selling suits. So, I think they're right. So the Ericsson actually was a little bit more of cutting edge at that point.
Of course. I mean, they're not going to pick like an old crappy phone for a Bond movie.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It had to be a Sony Ericsson.
It just looks crappy.
I wish that we had found a Sony Ericsson and I'd like brought it in and like taken a call on it during the show.
It probably cost more than a new iPhone
to
probably, find one.
You have to find it like on eBay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they sell it for like $5.
Yeah,
right.
About the price of a Beanie Baby.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like degraded at the same point. All right, I'm going to go with my fist bump moment is that scene where the building is crumbling in Venice and he's gone after Vesper to kill her. But he is in love and she's drowning and she's stuck inside the thing and he like reaches to her and like she's holding his hand through the... And like for some reason when I watched this the first time, I don't know, it didn't stand out in my memory. Right. I remembered it happening, but it didn't like impact me the same way. Watching it this time, I was like, man, that really makes me feel something. That is like just the look on her face, and you know like she's gonna drown.
She pushes herself away from him and
then she
on.
drowns. Yeah.
Just good drowning.
Heartbreaking.
It's a good drowning.
Heartbreaking scene, and you watch.
But she like let all the air out of her too.
You can see her like trying to like breathe in the water and all that. Like she's trying to happen right away.
Just thinking about that though, an entire building crumbling into the canals.
Yeah. It's a really cool scene.
Oh, super cool. Yeah.
Because as the fight was going on before that happens, we were both sort of looking at each other like, is this really a necessary action scene?
Does this need to still be happening, this movie?
It's kind of like one of those like last, like let's just throw one more thing in, but then that makes it totally necessary. It's like a really big moment.
I mean, the trivia is basically all about set designing that part.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's my personal fist pump moment.
I dig it.
I want you guys to know that we are going to be doing the film Warrior on this show, and I constantly reference the look between a father and his son, which is a direct reference to Warrior. And
it's a good look.
Yeah, it's an incredible look.
It's a great look.
It's a great look. That's gonna be like the drop. We have one for every show. This can't be this. This could be this one. Yeah, totally. All right. So let's get into breakdown star profiles. So we were considering using Dame Judi Dench as the second star, but it really has to be Eva Green.
Yeah.
You have Daniel Craig and Eva Green as the two stars here that we're going to talk about. So first we'll get into Craig. Infamous is his first credit listed prior to this. Now, for those of you that don't remember it, it was an ensemble cast film from another angle about Truman Capote that came out the same year as Capote, or like the next year. But all I remember is that it came out, and I was sort of like, that's really
the
weird.
next year, yeah.
Why is there another film about Capote? Another drama about Capote with really talented actors coming
Always
out?
happens.
Yeah.
When they do that.
2 scripts in production, and
Yeah.
one of the companies doesn't flinch. And this one clearly is the one that lost. I never saw it. I just remember it coming out. Munich, which I have seen, which is very good, though I don't really recall Daniel Craig standing out in that film for
No.
me. And then you have Layer Cake, which I distinctly remember Layer Cake, but I never saw Layer Cake. I think I was
great.
going to see
You
it.
should see it. You'd like it.
The first time I saw it, I don't remember what it was, but I felt really let down by it.
Yeah.
And I was totally against watching it again for a couple years, and then I watched it again. Someone talked me into it, and I loved it.
I feel like it's just very different than a lot of action movies too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it was
absolutely.
not expected, and
It's smart, and it almost feels like a Bond film, but
Right.
not quite.
Well, and I do recall there was like that stretch where Guy Ritchie,
It feels like a mix of those two.
because
worlds.
post Guy Ritchie being like a good director, when people started to be like, oh, well, he's just really gimmicky, and
Right.
like he kind of was divided, because early on when Snatch and Lock, Stock came out, everybody was like, this guy's amazing,
Right.
and then I do remember like Revolver coming out, and you had Rock and Rolla.
People like Sherlock Holmes, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that guy. I think he's really gimmicky, but I do remember this movie coming out and thinking this just feels like I'm watching a trailer for a Guy Ritchie movie.
Right.
So it may have been influenced by it, or maybe they were trying to sell it that way.
Look, guys, Warrior is not a drama. It's the greatest movie of all time.
We have a really special surprise for you guys when we do that movie. So
Yeah.
if you like that movie, like if you like it as much as we do, that's an episode you're going to have to watch.
No one likes that movie as much as we do.
It's not
It's a
even
weird
not
thing.
even our guests that were like
No.
worked on the movie like it as much as we do.
where does that rank like with Boogie Nights too?
Like Warrior, no joke. Like when we have the guys on here, we're probably going to have to do a thing where like,
We have to stop talking a lot.
well, because we're gonna basically start talking about it and be like, Warrior is my 4th,
Just
6th
fangirl.
favorite movie ever. Like it's in my top 10, no question.
Total fangirl.
Yeah, and I think it's for both of us, and it's
Okay.
probably the movie
Yeah.
I've seen the most ever. I've seen it like 90 times.
I've definitely seen
Yeah.
other movies a lot. Like Gladiator, I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
But Warrior, I've seen probably over 50 times.
I mean, I've watched Warrior like 4 or 5 times in a week before.
Yeah, me
Like-
too. I used to watch it every. All right.
Anyway, that's
You
another
guys sound
episode.
so
It was
cool.
a dark time in our lives. Okay.
Hey, Andrew. What's up, Seb? What do you?
Want to watch some Warrior, mate?
All right, so yeah, Daniel Craig, and that's I think why people were so kind of shocked when he booked this, because he was sort of I don't want to call him a nobody, but I
A
mean,
lesser known
Yeah,
actor.
he was small.
but it's almost what you want. I think is what we're realizing more and more out of your James Bond is you want a badass British guy who's kind of like smoldering, as they like to use the word.
I like it when it's someone who he has enough credits to his name where you know that he's going to deliver, but not enough where you associate him with another franchise, because that's where I feel like I just get lost in the films when it's someone that I believe they are James Bond. They've never been anything else to me.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it works with casting the male with Bond and all the women that are in these movies. Like Olga Kurylenko is probably one of the highest ones.
They've definitely had Bond girls that were known names.
But like, yeah, I mean, Halle Berry's a
Halle
known
Berry.
name, but she's way past her prime when she's in Bond. Like that's years after Swordfish, years after like the movie, like Monsters Ball. It's like 7 or 8 years later, isn't it?
We're talking about Halle Berry?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
and Die Another Day.
No,
far after that?
it's 02. Monsters Ball, I
is
think,
it?
was maybe the previous year.
she was
all right.
very, very big when she did
Yeah,
this.
that was the next.
Fair. Okay.
But Ava Green, we can talk about here for a second. So Ava Green was actually basically a nobody.
Yeah.
So The Dreamers in 03 is that Bertolucci movie. That's
It's
like
her
the
first movie ever.
Yeah, and she was a theatrical actress. She did like a lot of theater, and Bertolucci saw her, and she does a lot of full frontal and like graphic sex scenes in that movie. And Bertolucci's other most famous film for that same sort of thing is Last Tango in Paris with Marlon Brando, and the actress whose name I can't remember, Maria Schneider I think is her name, was very young and did very graphic scenes in that film. And her career, as a result, she became sort of typecast as this one actress, this type of actress. And so there was a lot of people that when she did Dreamers felt she shouldn't do it. Her family warned her. But she then did Arsène Lupin, which I haven't seen, and Kingdom of Heaven, which I have seen. Most of her scenes were cut out of that film, though. She actually was going to turn down this role. Even though she was just, like, blowing up, she was going to turn it down because she thought Bond girls were very sort of objectified as, like, not important.
And usually they are. I think this is the first time where we have seen someone who's
Yeah.
not that necessarily.
Because so she did turn down the role, and then what happened was after Kingdom of Heaven came out, the director's cut was released, and the director who we're about to talk about, Martin Campbell,
Yeah.
saw the director's cut in Kingdom of Heaven and was like, I really want Ava Green to do this part. So they asked her again, and she came in a week before production on her scene started.
Whoa.
I know, because she read the script and she was like, this is a real character. I can really play this character.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
That would be great to be at that point in your career where you can just turn down a James Bond
Right, like,
film.
I don't want to be a Bond girl.
But she really wasn't. She was like just starting to blow up. And I think that's really cool. It says something about her. So she's now in Penny Dreadful. That's like her claim to fame
the lead
now.
in that.
And she's been in a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, yeah, she stuck out to me this time. So we're going to do a little bit of a contest. Not a contest.
That's not a contest.
It's just like we're not going to recast.
I'm going to win.
We're not doing recast this week, guys, because James Bond has been recast every 3 years for the last 40,
yes.
So there's no point in us like saying, if you made Casino Royale in 1980, who would you play? It's just kind of a waste of time.
The people that were in that movie.
And they're not going to
Yeah.
remake it anyways.
Yeah,
exactly.
So what we're going to do is we're going to each sound off with our 3 choices right now for women now who you could see as the next Bond girl that haven't yet
gonna
played
win.
one.
I'm going to win.
We'll do the same thing later with Bond. Who
It's
should
not
be
a
the next
competition,
Bond?
But I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to
win.
win.
But if you guys, we're going to use the same hashtag Master Recaster. So whichever one of you guys thinks that our group of 3 is the best group of 3, hashtag Master Recaster at AMA Podcast, and let us know who you think wins. We're going to do it for the women, and then later on in the film, when we get to
The Bond.
the recast section, we'll do our 3 Bonds. So
I want to hear hers.
Should we
She's
do,
like
like,
yeah, we'll do 1, 1, and 1.
like 1, 1, and 1?
Yeah, last to first.
Well, here's the real question. I know for a fact you and I have one of the same.
Of course we do.
We have to, right?
Yeah, Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
She's
on my
definitely
list.
one of
She on
them.
your list too?
Oh, okay. No.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't want. I want to hear it. So who's your
You can
first
fly,
person?
can't you? God,
Yeah.
I love Emily Blunt.
Okay. Zoe Kravitz.
Okay, interesting choice.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Very young.
she's like hot, up and coming.
Yeah.
Hot, up and coming. I don't see her
Exotic.
in like the next film, but I see her in the franchise at some point.
Okay.
I think that she is a badass chick that could actually do a lot of her own stunts.
She's grown on me.
as we've seen her in past movies. My next one, Natalie Dormer.
Who's that?
She is in Game of Thrones.
Who does she play?
What's her name? I'm forgetting her name in Game of Thrones, but she's also in.
Oh yeah. I know that's
Yeah.
she's
She shaved her head.
Tyrell. She's named. And she's also in Hunger Games.
Yes.
Tyrell.
She plays the Tyrell girl who marries. Anyway.
Yeah.
But Natalie Dormer, definitely a choice,
Okay.
and I think that she's just going to. Her career is blowing up right now.
She's
so
smoking hot.
exactly, and then. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but Alicia Vikander.
Yes. Yeah.
She is my ultimate girl crush right now. She's just like
My man.
so freaking gorgeous and like everything about her just she doesn't seem like she's acting. I don't know what it is, but from Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
and Ex Machinima, like all of those movies. Oh.
Here's what happened with Alicia Vikander.
Yeah.
Andrew saw the trailer for Man from U.N.C.L.E., thought she was so
Seen
hot in
all
the
of the
trailer.
trailers.
I've seen the trailer several times, and recast a film based on never even hearing her voice, just seeing.
Never seeing her act, never anything. Just seeing her walk by in one of the scenes and be like, I love you.
If she's
love
not in a
her.
Bond movie eventually,
Specifically,
like there's
her
this
walking
franchise
by,
is the worst.
if you know what we mean. That's what Andrew's paying attention to.
She was on my list for that reason too.
She's on your list?
Yeah, because I was going to use Angelina Jolie because I thought that because I had this thing of like present, future, and past.
Yeah.
And I feel like Angelina Jolie is one of the ones that missed the boat. Like she would have been a great Bond girl.
Honestly, though, I feel like Alicia actually is better than Angelina Jolie because she's able to have this soft, mysterious side, and she's also able to have this badass side where she can just like bring it.
Right. So I'm talking. So this is So 10 years ago, I think Angelina Jolie would have been a great Bond girl, and then Alicia Vikander was one of mine as well. And I have a third one, but I don't want to skip over your second.
Because we're just jumping all over the
just
place.
all over the place
And
right
somebody
now.
said, time to rip the door off a tank, come on. So I had to respond to that.
Yeah.
Welcome, Max. He said hello also.
Hey.
Hey, Brockman. So my number 1 is also Emily Blunt, and my number 2 is Keira Knightley. Because I love Keira
You
Knightley.
love her, and I just can't.
Body like a 12-year-old boy, but I do love Keira Knightley.
Okay.
You think she could pull it off?
Of course she could pull it off.
Where has she pulled this off in any other?
many
Pirates
times-
of the Caribbean?
How many times has like
really? That is a completely different.
How many times has
character.
Keira Knightley ever been a chance to just be sexy? She's beautiful. Everybody knows that. She's always playing like.
She's had that chance a lot.
No, she always ends up playing like these really like intense, historically accurate characters, or like dramas, or like she's in
Bent it like
the
Beckham.
Imitation Game, or yeah. I mean, like how often? Like, how many times has she just gotten a chance to like put on a smoking hot dinner gown and like walk up to James Bond? Like classic Bond
Do
girls
I think
don't.
she could play it? Yes. Do I think I'd be excited about it? No.
I'd be excited about it.
I know you would.
I love Keira Knightley. I've loved Keira Knightley since I was in high school and the first Pirates movie came out.
I just never been into her.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean she wouldn't be a good Bond girl.
I went all a little bit older because
How many times did you watch Love Actually?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies. Love Actually.
She wears a wedding dress in that movie.
She's gorgeous in that
She's beautiful
film.
in it.
And there's the scene where Andrew Lincoln is holding the cards.
To me, you were perfect.
I would love you until you look like this.
Yeah.
And did you just superimpose your face in that scene?
I've thought no. What?
Are you Andrew Lincoln or Keira Knightley in that scene?
I'm not sure, sir. Some more porridge, please.
So mine, it's so funny that this is because Keira Knightley's totally your type of girl.
Yeah.
And Frida Pinto is totally
Oh
my
my
type of
God.
girl. And I think she would be perfect.
Okay.
She's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's exotic. and
Frida
she's-
Pinto, isn't that the character that Selma
You're
Hayek
thinking
plays in
of
that
Frida
film
Kahlo?
with the
Kahlo?
unibrow?
You're thinking of.
Oh, Frida Kahlo.
That's an artist.
Right.
That is not Frida Pinto.
Got it. Okay. I'm
She was
sorry.
in Slumdog Millionaire, right?
Frida Pinto. Yes.
Yes.
She's gorgeous.
She is stunning.
Just for his sake, he was that was another joke on Ben's part.
Except for the sake of like you thinking that
Dude, she's
Keira Knightley has a
beautiful.
body like a 12-year-old boy.
No, she does not. Look at her.
Actually, I'm gonna take Andrew's side on this one.
Boom.
Frida Pinto, she's not like a stick.
Look,
She's
dude, her face has more body than Keira Knightley's entire body.
Frida Pinto weighs like 17 pounds.
No, Keira Knightley weighs 17
Frida
pounds.
Pinto has got the sex appeal.
Boom.
Well,
And
guys,
she lo-
Coming from a woman,
She's smart.
and she's very
okay.
smart.
Very, very good, guys.
Although my top 3 is the best.
She does have Alicia Vikander in there, and you know.
Do I
love
have one
her.
more? You guys
Oh,
already
yeah.
said your 3?
You did.
I
your
already
three.
said my 3.
No, I haven't said my
I got
third.
too excited.
I said Keira Knightley, Emily Blunt,
Oh.
Oh, I thought. Oh, did no.
and the
Don't do it.
ageless and beautiful
say-
Kate Beckinsale.
Oh,
you thought I was gonna say Diane
I thought you were
Lane?
gonna say Diane Lane.
I love Diane Lane so much. I mean, I really, truly, honestly do think that you could have a plot twist in one of these films where Bond has to go for the older woman, and
I
Diane
mean, like
Lane
what he did with
would-
Monica Bellucci.
Yeah, but Diane Lane's so much better, and she's
of course she
she's
is.
ageless and beautiful. But Kate Beckinsale's actually like still could play a Bond girl, I think.
Yeah,
She's
she could. I like Kate Beckinsale
beautiful.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
I 100% thought you were going to say Tom Cruise.
Wouldn't have been a surprise.
My husband mistreats me, and
Now they're gonna kill me. All right, so let us know what you thought about that. Maybe tell us what your top 3 favorite women are that haven't been in a Bond movie that should be or could be or should have been.
and who had the best list of 3? Hashtag Master Recaster, Kate Beckinsale, Keira Knightley, and Emily Blunt.
Vikander, Blunt, Pinto.
Vikander, Kravitz, and Dormer.
All right, there you go, guys.
And I would also give my left boob to be in a Bond film, so
But then they wouldn't watch you.
I know.
Yeah, you heard
Gotta
it here. You heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first.
I look like Keira Knightley.
If you
Yeah.
put her in,
That's really good.
That was very good.
You know what? We're going to give Cathy Kelley the podium right now to just explain to the
Oh.
producers of the next Bond film. You're going to go directly to this camera here.
What am I doing?
You're selling yourself in 30 seconds why you should be in the next Bond film. We're going to clip this,
Wow.
and this will be something you have
This is
where
your
you
audition
are in a
tape.
Bond film,
Okay.
and this will be a thing you show.
Well, thankfully, Bond films don't have a lot of dialogue, so I'm just going to do this for 30 seconds.
book her, Johnny. She's gonna be high.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cathy Cupcake. All right, let's get into production development. That was a great 30 seconds, Cathy.
Thank
That
you.
was good.
It wasn't even 30 seconds, but you didn't need the full 30 seconds
yeah.
because it was just so good in the first, 3.
Yeah,
Eternal.
That's gonna be in your reel, I guarantee it. All right, let's talk production development a little bit. We have more and more as we've done the show, just moved away from ultimate action scene, choreography, production
Yeah.
development. We talk a bit about it now. I feel like the show is more about us just being like, what's the sweetest part of the movie? This is the sweet. Fuck yeah! And then that's the show. Let's have a really pretty girl on to do that same thing with us. And the audience is like, you guys are doing a great job.
Come on. You don't want to devolve it to that. That's not what our show is. That is not what our show is.
No.
We do a lot of work for a reason. It's
No,
just
we
we know
put
what
in-
the audience responds to.
Yes.
And we know what we find is the most interesting. And this is interesting to some people.
Yeah, no, and it is interesting.
You
But we
know,
will
but-
spend time. We just mean the early episodes, I think we spent 30 or 40 minutes on production.
That was way too much.
And let's talk about how this movie got made. So basically, Brosnan signed on for 4 movies, and by the time the 4th movie was done, and Die Another Day is a giant steaming pile of crap, I think most people.
How do you really feel?
I like the diamonds in his face.
What's the one line where the guy's like, life in a
Oh, yeah.
ice palace has its
Wait, is that your Bond
disadvantages."
voice, your Clive Owen voice, or your Dire Straits voice?
It's my British character voice. It's my British character voice, sir. So I don't even know what that was either.
His impression of your impression of him.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Look, I can do Tom Cruise and Schwarzenegger, okay? That's all I
Give me a
got, guys.
break.
Just give me a break.
So yeah, Brosnan was signed on to do 4, and I'm sure that you saw all this about Quentin Tarantino wanting to direct
Yeah.
a film noir version, black and white. with Brosnan only.
Yeah, which is hilarious, really.
It would have been horrible.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about this a lot. I like Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
I like even the stuff he does later on, which you're not as big of a fan of.
Yeah.
That would have been horrid.
Yeah.
Like, in the same sense of Tim Burton redoing Willy Wonka.
Right.
That's what would have happened if Quentin Tarantino
super
did
stylized.
Bond. Yeah.
All the like wink stuff that you already get out of like Bond movies would have just been so wink.
Yeah.
Tarantino movies feel like Tarantino movies. You don't need a Bond movie to feel like a Tarantino movie.
I don't think that he can take over a franchise. Like, you couldn't have him do a Mission Impossible or Star Trek or Star Wars or anything like that.
What is a franchise Tarantino would like lend himself well to? I feel like there probably are franchises he could do, but it would be much more like...
It'd be like if... No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so, man.
I wonder if he could do...
I wouldn't mind him doing some sort of superhero.
So like the right kind of superhero
Yeah.
franchise.
Like if he did The Punisher and
or
they
something.
really redid it or something like that.
Or like Spider-Man. Weird. Bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of Spider-Man, this is actually kind of cool. So EM
Yeah.
Productions is the company that does the Bond films. And in 1999, they actually traded the rights with MGM because MGM had the rights for Casino Royale. And because it's the very first of the Bond novels. And they owned the rights MGM did to Spider-Man. So they traded Spider-Man for Casino Royale so they could make this movie. And I think they came out ahead.
I don't think they did, actually.
Well, not money-wise.
Yeah. And the other way. Yes,
Quality-wise.
Absolutely, quality-wise by a mile.
Yeah, because this movie made like $500+ million,
Right, but
the Spider-Man
monetarily,
movies,
Spider-Man 1 and 2 were
the
just
franchise,
huge.
Yeah, just monster. So Brosnan was inked for 4. There was a 5th script in production. They were talking about him playing it, and he was just sort of like, I think I'm going to step down from this, probably in the same way that Craig is doing now.
I mean, they thought he was too old. He was 53.
Because Roger Moore played Bond until he was 58. Right. There's a lot of criticism of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Brosnan decided to be done. There was about 200 names up for the new role of James Bond.
Crazy.
They considered all kinds of people. Everybody from... Actually, Henry Cavill.
He was the number one.
But he was 22.
Yeah.
He was a little too young to do it. He could do it now. But he's
Gerard
Superman
Butler,
now. Yeah, Gerard Butler, Dougray Scott.
Clooney.
Hunt.
Yeah. But she's dead. Yeah, he's the worst.
The Chimera virus.
He's one of those guys that when you look at him, though, he's like, you can't be a good guy.
No.
You could not be a Bond.
He has to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's like that dashing Gerard Depardieu.
He'd be a bad guy in a Bond movie.
Right. Yeah, well, who are some of the other guys that were on there? You had
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba. Well, he's like currently
now.
one of the guys. But one of the other guys, what the hell? We were talking about yesterday. Star Trek. Bones.
Oh.
Carl Urban. Carl Urban was in. Yeah, he was in contention for
Bones.
Isn't his name Bones in Star Trek? Know what they call him?
Oh, no.
Bonesy?
He thought you meant the
I thought you were talking about the show
drama.
Bones. I was like, what?
Oh, the one guy? The guy from Buffy?
It's like that guy
David
was
Boreanaz?
Yeah.
David Boreanaz was in contention.
Maybe he was in
almost
contention.
Bond. Yeah.
Yeah, his career took a strange turn. He was on Roswell, and then... no, he wasn't on Roswell. He was Angel, right?
Yeah, he was Angel.
Yeah, he was Angel.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about that. Let's
the
move
most
on.
that's been talked about in the last 10 years was that right there.
Right there, yeah. So Craig was like introduced in 2005. He like put on a tuxedo, got on the airplane, getting out of the press, like introduced. I think it's sort of cool. Can you imagine being cast as James Bond?
Dude, you would feel like a badass going everywhere in the world.
You put on your Tom Ford tuxedo and you like get off the airplane to the press. You like take off your sunglasses for a second.
And then everyone's like, "We hate you. You're not going to be a good Bond."
You're blonde.
Your ears are too big. He's like, God, get me out of here.
They called him James Blonde. So clever.
Yeah, James
So
Bond. There was
clever.
there was the whole campaign. Daniel Craig is not James Bond. People were just against
People
it.
are, yeah.
I mean, would they have rather him dyed his hair?
No.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that happened with Heath Ledger when he got cast as the Joker.
Yeah,
people
people-
lost their shit.
Yeah, people
they
just
were
don't know
not
what to make of
happy.
it.
No.
Yeah.
People just like to complain and complain.
Yep.
And then they see something like, oh, wow, it was really good.
I saw the trailer for the Preacher show that's coming out on AMC, and I had the same reaction because that's like a legendary comic book. That's like one of their all-timers.
Oh, yeah.
And like this show, I just saw the trailer. And
Look, nerd, we don't read comic books.
All right, fair enough. Never mind. Big shout out to my man Max Brockman. I know he loves Preacher. He's my only friend. Let's talk about who wrote the film. So you had Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and Paul Haggis. So Purvis and Wade are guys who were just straight up Bond writers. Like they've done every single Bond film back to like, what did we say? World Is Not Enough or something like that. I think back to World Is Not Enough.
Yeah.
So they're a team. They have been called like one of the most successful British writing teams in the world. I mean, it's not that hard when you just write James Bond movies. Like, they're going to get seen. People are going to watch the movies.
Yeah, but a good James Bond movie, you saw what happened with this movie and with Spectre.
Most of the movies that they wrote are terrible.
Yeah.
They're not
that's what I'm
good.
saying, though, is that, like, this movie, like a Bond movie, it is so cliche and it follows this very specific formula, but you have to do it well.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
it hasn't been done well that many times.
I mean,
And there's only
recently.
how many car chases and whatever else that you can do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, like what you're really doing is you're writing formula, and if the movie makes a lot of money, then they're going to have you back to write another movie. Doesn't really matter on the
You know what
quality.
they're going to do with this movie is it's going to just be this thing where it starts with like what you said. The first one in the franchise is the best, and it's going to go up, 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 and it's going to crash.
Yep.
And then when they reboot it, it's going to go back to the basics like they do every single time.
Every single time,
so it's
yeah.
the only way. They've just created this cycle that never ends.
And they'll always get seen. I mean, the next film
Yeah,
is
of
Bond
course.
25. That'll be a big deal. You know,
But do they always make their money back?
We'll show the graphic a little later
Yeah.
for the. But yeah, I mean, I'd say so. Bond movies always do well. Like they just, or at least decently
Like
well.
this one and Skyfall were the two most successful of the four.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens with Spectre, but yeah, the Quantum of Solace did drop off quite a bit.
Yeah. But anyway, Paul Haggis is the interesting name here, and he was brought in mostly to rewrite that last scene, the one we talked about with the sinking building in Venice. Now, Haggis had sort of been a TV writer all through his entire career in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, into the early 2000s. Then all of a sudden, he gets the opportunity to write and direct Crash because $1 Million Baby had all this press, and he wrote that film, so that wins Best Picture. Then his film, Crash, wins Best Picture. And all of a sudden, Paul Haggis is like in the stratosphere.
Right.
So at the time that this was being written, in 05, 06, he was on top of the world. He had just written 2 Best Picture films back to back. So he was brought in as a script doctor, probably paid an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
And then, continued to do films. But most of the movies he's done now, since that boom, I think, In the Valley of Allah was him, right? He directed that.
Thanks. I mean, dude, he just completely fell off. Basically,
Yeah.
it feels like.
Yeah. Oh, The Next 3 Days was that Russell Crowe
People
movie.
kind of got tired of that way he tries to make you feel.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I was a fan of The Next 3 Days. I think that movie's good, but it's true. Like none of the movies he's done since those two have been like, But I still think his name is valid and
Oh,
relevant enough.
absolutely. You see, I mean, he's not going to have trouble finding any work or
No.
selling scripts.
Yeah, and I mean, a Haggis movie could win Best Picture next year. I wouldn't be
Absolutely.
surprised.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the writing team behind this.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing to talk about is Martin Campbell, who is interesting. Like, he started doing British TV a lot. Like, that's where he got his start. And then he came over to the States in '88, and he did Criminal Law, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
Yeah, Criminal Law was his breakout. And then in the '90s, he kind of like hit his stride. He became like this big '90s action movie director. He did The Legend of Zorro, The Mask of Zorro, GoldenEye, No Escape, and Vertical Limit. And Vertical Limit actually made a lot of money. That Everest movie.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't because K2 also, right?
Yeah, I mean that was we go through these phases of like aliens, zombies, like superheroes, disaster movies, and this was the kind of time of like the climbing disasters.
Right. Yeah. And then Everest just came out, and like was like a way better version of. Though I actually don't know if either
When
of
I
those
watched
two.
Everest, I was like, oh, I feel like I've seen this movie before.
Right,
Yeah.
like 15 years ago.
In
Absolutely.
IMAX.
Which one was Chris O'Donnell in?
That's Vertical.
That was Vertical
Yeah,
Limit?
yeah.
That wasn't K2?
No.
Okay.
But it's interesting because this guy is the same guy that directed GoldenEye, so he did both of the most recent reboots.
GoldenEye is fascinating to me because
I know.
we loved that movie growing up. I'm sure we probably all did.
Every boy our age loved that movie.
Because the video game.
Video game, everything.
It was
Brosnan
awesome.
was such a badass.
For England James.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
The clicking pen. Like, it
Every
was
time
so
I do it,
cool.
she shakes her head.
No, it's just not going to work.
I just don't even know how to do another British accent now.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Okay. Sean Bean's a great villain. Trevelyan. I mean, we just know. It's like the funny thing is like I haven't seen James Bond in so long.
That was
Goldeneye.
funny.
It was a good one. Yeah. You guys have a good laugh at my expense.
We got a good laugh out of it, yeah.
You had a good laugh at my expense, governor. Yeah, but like I remember that movie being so sweet, and then when I watched it again recently, I was like, "This is
very bad.
terrible."
It was very bad.
If I had to use one like sentence that would describe to anyone why that movie is sweet, it would be Pierce Brosnan's mane.
Really?
I think that his hair, like when I think about it, if you think about like a man that has a mane, like his hair's not that long, but it's still the way that it's like
Coiffed.
feels like it's a mane.
See, for me, it was Sean Bean. He was so sweet.
It was awesome.
It was not God that gave me this face.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
you, James.
That's a way better accent than mine. I'm embarrassed.
I feel like we
I thought we
established this in
established
the
that
first
before the
30
show.
seconds.
No,
So,
even
yeah.
before the show started. Yeah.
I'll keep working on it for the next time we do one of these
Just keep
films.
working on it during the show. It's going to go well.
It's a really good plan.
So anyway, just to finish up on Campbell, and then he went into the 2000s. He did The Legend of Zorro and Casino Royale, which were, Casino Royale was great. Legend of Zorro was not. I love The Mask of Zorro, but Legend of Zorro was not a good movie.
Yeah, you were like the biggest fan of The Legend of the Mask of
I
Zorro.
love The Mask of Zorro. Anthony Hopkins, are you kidding me? This
one of
like
those movies.
This skyrocketed Banderas and Zeta Jones' careers.
What's the better movie, The Count of Monte Cristo or The Mask of Zorro?
Oh god, they're both
They're
so
both
good.
so sweet,
Probably
right?
Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, Count of Monte Cristo is
Yeah,
great.
it's a very
Could we
good
do that
movie.
on this show?
Yeah, I think we could.
I love that
It's one
movie.
of the, okay, anyway, and then he did the Green Lantern, and now he's just not really doing anything. He's directed some TV episodes.
Yeah, if you directed the Green Lantern, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
That or the
Yeah.
Green Hornet, you're probably
Career's
screwed on
over.
both.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's credited for directing the first 2 installments of the newest Bond franchise, but that's pretty much that.
That's about it.
So yeah, the producers on this movie, it's sort of funny. The Bond production is basically family. It's like been passed down.
The Broccoli family.
Yeah, you have Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli are like the main producers listed on this. I know Barbara Broccoli, it's great. You had David G. Wilson, who was Michael G. Wilson's father, I think, or is it the other way around? But either way,
Nepotism.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all it is.
Yeah, because you had like all of these films being produced in the 70s and the 80s, and then like Barbara worked as an assistant director, as a production assistant. She worked her way up, and then now she's been like the main credited producer on like the last 4 or 5 films.
Right, and her dad, Albert Broccoli, was huge.
Yeah. So that's like sort of, it's just like a family business. I'm sure like most of these movies, if you look at the producers list, there's usually like 10 or 11 people listed. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. You have like regional producers, executive producers, but the real people who are behind it, or are actually putting it together, who are behind the development of the film, it's usually 2 to 4 people. And it's this
Especially
family.
with franchises, those 2 to 4 people usually try to stick around.
Yeah. So they've obviously done a good job of keeping the whole thing afloat. So it's really interesting if you were listening. I was listening to some of like the interviews for Spectre and like listening to Christoph Waltz talk about it, and just sort of like when you get involved in a Bond film, it's like there's so much history now.
Yeah.
You have the precedent is it's a 40 or 50-year-old franchise, so there'll be good movies and bad movies, and it's okay. It'll go up, it'll go down, but it's so entrenched in our culture now.
Yeah.
There'll always be a market for
There's
James
also
Bond.
so much pressure.
Yeah.
If you're in a franchise like that.
Well, when we walked out of Spectre, I asked you, I was like, do you think Bond's done? Like, do you think he's finally hitting the end of his rope?
No.
Like, not in the sense that they're going to stop making them, but are they going to stop being good movies?
You also wonder, because since the Bond films, like we now have Mission Impossible, the Bourne Identity franchise. Is there another secret agent franchise that's been like that successful?
I mean, there have been movies just scattered throughout, but not really a
Man
franchise.
from U.N.C.L.E., Kingsman, things like that.
But I mean, those two, it's like 5 installments and 4 with a 5th coming soon. They're sort of like the competitors now. When
Absolutely.
a big spy movie comes out. And, you know, Mission Impossible 5 was a way better movie than Spectre.
Yeah.
It was, and even like...
And they did a lot of the same things that they do in all the other movies, but they did it right.
Yeah, I mean, this actually, MI5 had a similar scene to this, where he's on the motorcycle and she stops in the middle of the road and he peels off and crashes, right?
Right.
Of course, you're bringing up.
Of course, you had to talk
Mission
about Tom
Impossible.
somehow.
Yeah, well,
Look, I
of
had
course.
to get him on the show somehow. So this was interesting because I'm going to jump ahead in a box office and critical reception, because we were talking about with your thesis and how you were saying this was like people weren't really wanting to see this, you know, like they weren't looking too forward to it, and I was kind of in the same boat. Like I remember because I loved Brosnan,
right?
You know, by the time they were about to replace him, it was like, yeah, Die Another Day sucked, but this is James Bond. This is the James Bond I knew, I grew up with, and he epitomizes what Bond is for me. I was not that excited to see this movie. I did see it in theaters, and I did like it, but I didn't love it.
Casino, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
And I like it much more now than I did then. But it's crazy when you look at the numbers for this movie. I mean, worldwide makes sense because of Bond being as big as it is.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere. But this movie made a lot of money. I had no idea. It made $600 million.
It was very successful. I mean, well, because I think what happened was that you had the Timothy Dalton stretch, those few years after Roger Moore, and the mid-'80s, the Roger Moore movies were just were
bad.
Abysmal. People did not want to see those movies. Timothy Dalton, they tried to make it dark, but it didn't really work for the times. Nobody wanted that. So there was the break there for about 6 years between the last License to Kill and GoldenEye. GoldenEye was such an impactful movie for us. I mean, as we've said, the game, our whole generation, like that was the right movie, it was the right Bond.
Yeah.
And they got to sort of ride the wave of that through Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough. By the time Die Another Day came out, as a fan, I was tired of it. I didn't really want to see it. I think I did see it in theaters, but there was still enough intrigue for me when Casino came out. Like, oh man, James Bond was really relevant for me as a kid, so there's a new James Bond. I should see this.
And that trailer, when you watch it, it feels different than what you'd been seeing. You
Totally
know, it starts off black and white. We were really into reimaginings.
Yeah.
Like, this is the beginning of 007.
He just got his 00 status.
He just got his 00 status.
And even not starting with the opening sequence like you're used to.
Yeah, that never happens.
Yeah.
To where they have the gunshot and then it comes in on him after the credits.
Right.
It was just... Yeah, it looked like something that was new and exciting.
Yeah.
But I think I had a hard time letting go of what I remembered.
Yeah, like it's like we said, it's just one of those things where I don't think I liked it anywhere near as much then as I do now. I didn't appreciate anywhere near as much as like how impactful of a Bond movie this really was. But yeah, clearly the world liked it because it made a ton of money.
How many Aston Martins could you buy with that money?
A lot of Aston Martins. Okay. How many like dialect coaches could I hire? I'm not sure.
No one that can fix that accent.
I'll take the red Aston Martin, please.
I've got $600 million. Fix this. Yeah. Okay. So
what's the interaction like though? Like I was thinking like James Bond goes into the hotel and he sees the beautiful woman who's married to the guy who
on the
takes
horse
off and and he sees her and like it's just classic James Bond, right? Like she's mistreated by her husband and he can see that he's going to take advantage of it.
And he meets her in the coolest way ever by getting this guy's car.
Yeah.
But then later in the movie when he's talking to Vesper for the first time and he's like, oh, you're not my type. And she's like, why? Because I'm smart. And he goes, no, because you're single.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like the interaction with the woman at the hotel. It's just like, I can see your husband mistreats you. I would also like to mistreat you.
Is that in this movie or is this a different? Is that Austin Powers?
Okay. I'm gonna stop now, guys. So most of the movie was made, like the money was made worldwide, which is interesting. It's different than most of the movies we do here, even though these films really they're American movies. They're not, like, in a way, like they're more relevant overseas than they are here.
Right, and it's not even like Britain.
No,
relevant. It's usually Asia.
It's worldwide. It's a worldwide franchise.
Yeah, I know, but that's where 80% of your money's coming from.
Wait, it was number 2 in its opening weekend?
Yeah.
What did it lose to?
Happy Feet.
Oh my God.
I believe. Yeah, Happy Feet opened at $41 million.
Can't mess with the Pixar movies.
You cannot screw with animation.
Or that one's not Pixar.
DreamWorks, right?
DreamWorks.
Yeah. I mean, that's like classic though. I feel like every time we have one of those, this opened number 2, it's always some crap like that.
Tuxedo versus Tuxedo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's serious. It's always
Happy Feet. Very good.
Very good joke.
Yeah.
Took me a second to get it.
I missed that joke. Okay. The audience is like, stop it! Just stop doing it. It's not funny anymore.
All right, so we got a graphic here of all the Bond movies adjusted for ticket inflation.
I will stay strong. Thank you, Max.
And you look, and it's so tough because when you adjust that much for 40 years of content, you happy with yourself?
I'm very proud of myself. Like, what smile?
You're like the little engine that could. But
I'm gonna keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very funny. Very funny.
So Skyfall was massively successful.
Yeah, and a lot of money.
Do you think that's because of No Country for Old Men and who Javier Bardem became? Do you think it's because people thought that they could do better after Quantum of Solace?
I actually don't know. I didn't see Skyfall in theaters. I missed it. I watched it prepping for this. I thought that I don't know, I wasn't that interested. But, I do have to say, Quantum of Solace came out, it came and went. Skyfall got
I'm having the hardest time remembering what that movie's about.
I think Olga Kurylenko gets covered in oil, if I recall.
She is in it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it's about.
If I recall, that's all I remember. No, but like Skyfall, like something like the Adele song. I think she may have won an Oscar for the song.
Everybody, Skyfall.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
No, I helped her write that.
Do you want me to start singing the Moby song from Born again? I can do that.
No.
Back again.
Strange ways of back again.
No one.
So, but I remember like everybody was like, "This is really M's movie. It's Judi Dench's movie. People love Dame Judi Dench." Mm-hmm. Do you wish that you were a dame, Kathy? Do you wish that we called you Dame Cathy Kelley?
Do you wish you were a knight?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Sir Ben Bateman. Yeah. Do you want to call me that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd want to be a dame, like shoot for queen or something.
Wow.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I like $100 bills better than 50s too. Okay. Like, I mean,
you can't be a queen though, and we can't be knights
dames.
Or dames.
I mean, I could if
we
I
have
found
to be born there.
No, you can marry into it.
Oh, to be queen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can't.
Marry Keira Knightley and then become a dame? Wait, what?
No.
You got it all figured out, man. That's perfect. You just go ahead and tell people that story.
Okay. Yeah, but like something about it, I don't know, like Skyfall was somehow relevant. People talked about it like it mattered in a way that Quantum really didn't. But it is interesting after adjustment. I mean, Thunderball and Goldfinger are the 2 highest grossing. That's crazy to me.
It's so funny too. The unadjusted gross is $63 million. You adjust it, and it's $623 million.
Yeah, I mean 1964 and 1965. They came out in back-to-back years. Isn't that crazy?
10 years. Yeah, I mean those are 2 of the most classic Bond movies ever.
Yeah.
Too.
2 of
the
the
height
first
of
5,
the franchise, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
I think like Dr. No, and then is
From Russia with
Goldfinger
Love.
second, maybe.
From Russia with Love in there too.
Yeah, 64. Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so that's cool. I mean,
Die Another Day sure made a lot of money.
I'm very interested to see how Spectre does.
How did Die Another Day make the most money of any of the Pierce Brosnan
I
movies?
know, it's weird. It's
And
because
Tomorrow Never Dies.
they were all good enough. Like Tomorrow Never Dies was good enough.
GoldenEye After Adjustment made the least of all four? What the hell?
I don't know, man.
And then, of course, you have, The Living Daylights and License to Kill. The Dalton movies just didn't make any money.
No one cares about Timothy Dalton as Bond other than you.
I like that Bond. His hair is similar to Brosnan's, but not quite the same. Probably the second best James Bond hair.
Brosnan's the best?
Are you kidding? Of course he's the best.
All right. So critically, this movie killed it. Absolutely killed it. IMDb gave it an 8.0. Rotten Tomatoes, from all critics, top critics, and audience, respectively, gave it 95, 96, and 89.
Say that again. Sorry, I was paying attention to something about mains.
It's on your piece of paper. You can look at it.
Oh, they're critical, sure.
Yeah. So this movie did very, very well.
Yes, extremely
critically
well.
received. Rotten Tomatoes, these are massive scores, and I think they're the highest of any of the most recent 10 Bond movies.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's like I said, most of these lists will put this as the best Bond movie ever, or like a top 3. I mean, it's also interesting just when you think about perception of a film, right? We talked about, we were noticing that like Fast 7 or Furious 7 has like a gigantic score. Like it's in the high 80s, I think, or in the 90s. But that's because people went into it knowing exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
This cheesy, big budget action movie with an ensemble cast and a bunch of one-liners is good because I'm expecting it.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like if that movie had come out as maybe like the sequel to Fast and the Furious, like the actual sequel, it wouldn't have been good in the way that the real sequel wasn't good.
Right.
It's just that like now that's what we expect. So with the same reason that John Wick is a classic action movie already, whereas like in 1998 it would have been just the same as everything else.
That one still shocks me because I didn't know what to expect going into it, and I didn't think that anyone really was looking forward to it, and I think that's why it scored so high.
Right.
But still, beyond me. So, Dana Stevens from The Slate said that Martin Campbell, who also directed Pierce Brosnan's first outing, blah, 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 we already did that, has chosen to give us Bond who's both metaphorically and literally stripped bare. Let me take this opportunity to thank him for both. And yes, like that's why I picked that review, is I think that is the most perfect way to put how this movie was done.
And that's part of what you said in your thesis statement about how they just stripped it down to the bare essentials.
And that's what his iconic Speedo scene. She's also referencing.
Yes, of course.
And also when he's naked, getting his nuts hit with that fucking rope.
It's weird how you just keep talking about Daniel Craig wearing less and less clothing.
That was a creative torture scene, right?
I would have died.
It's one of the most creative torture scenes probably ever.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Horrible.
Like, I love the way he responds.
He's just laughing.
So good.
Yeah.
He's like, scream, no, a little to the right. Yeah, it's great.
Very painful.
What did Tom Long say
And
here?
Tom Long from the Detroit News says, Casino Royale tries to have it both ways, moving toward the genuine while still grasping for the outlandish. The result is a film that's caught between caution and abandonment, and that's probably not a place where James Bond wants to be. Don't think that that's really true. Feel like...
Yeah, and what was the outlandish? What was crazy in this movie?
I think that some of the stunts were a little bit like, falling off what's a 2-story beam and just like shaking it off.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the parkour scene yet, which is like, I remember watching it in theaters and thinking that was the coolest.
Part, yeah.
Though like that parkour has become so much more mainstream since that. Watching it this time, I was a little less impressed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my memory, everything was so cool and like...
I was really looking forward to it, and it's still awesome. It's still like a really, really good chase scene, but it's not as innovative as it once was.
It seems a little bit more like normal people. He's just a little bit more...
It's just how we do things now in 2015.
Like if you and I would be doing those scenes, those stunts, and you would be like...
Oh, it'd be no problem.
Yeah.
That's how I get around.
Yep. Fully. I mean, I guess before we get into like favorite line and rankings and all that stuff, I mean, there's like a lot of this movie we just haven't talked about. I feel like we just skipped over the whole movie.
There's parts of the movie?
Well, I'm thinking about some of the things that happen in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if we talk about favorite line, we'll probably reference some of those scenes, but I was just thinking like, we really didn't talk about the scene at the embassy at the beginning. We really didn't talk about...
How he died.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that scene.
Well, that's fine, because with favorite line, I'm going to talk about how he dies.
Okay.
Me too. Wait, do we have the same thing?
They probably do.
Oh, man. We both had Alicia Vikander, so it wouldn't be shocking to me.
You guys are like two peas in a pod.
Brain.
I like how if I saw her in real life, I probably wouldn't even recognize her because I've never seen her.
Because you just know what her backside looks like in a dress, basically?
No, that is not. I know what her face looks like in a dress. It's a very pretty face.
Face in a dress?
Beautiful, all right?
You're discombobulated.
Go watch the trailer.
I have. You've made me watch it several times. Let's talk about our favorite lines, guys. If you're watching along, this is once again another opportunity for you guys to jump in and share with us what you think. What is your favorite line in the film? So, what do you guys think? You guys want to jump in first?
I want to let you go first. And see
Should we say it at the same time? On 3?
Okay.
If it's wrong, it's going to be really weird.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
That'd be hilariously awkward.
Are you guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
Nope.
Nope.
Well, I was going
Different
to.
one?
Were you distracted?
wait.
Oh, I think you have more of it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That last hand nearly killed me.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Dead on.
Beautiful. God, great minds. What's your stupid
really
line?
Good. Yeah, Andrew. Max
He's
says
gonna
poor
do it.
Andrew always gets his line jacked. You do.
It's because I picked the best parts.
Because we always bring a girl on. She sits next to you. She goes first, and she
just
steals your
reads my
line.
paper.
Yeah.
It's
He's
not
still
written
thinking
on
about Vikander.
I
Yeah.
am.
But Roxy has stolen more of your lines than Cathy
Roxy has
Kelley.
stolen. She stole like a whole show.
So
from me
you have
once.
more to hold against her.
Absolutely.
So we're okay.
Cathy's
Yeah.
way higher than Rox right now.
Oh man.
The other part that from that same instance is when he goes. It's right when he gets defibrillated.
Yeah.
He just comes up. He goes, "You okay?"
Yeah.
I love
good.
it. He's like, "You were just dead, and you just
Yeah.
asked her if she's okay."
I like-
You're so badass.
I like just the whole like. Okay, there's two. I really, really like when they're talking later at dinner, and he says to her, "Why is it that people that can't take advice are the ones who insist on giving it?"
Right.
That's one of my favorite lines because it is like she's a strong woman and she's like she's very opinionated and she's not going to back down. And then I also really like when he's on the phone with M, after Vesper's already died, and like there's just this great exchange where M is sort of like, you know, it turns out that she was working for such and such. Like sometimes we're so focused on the villain, we stop.
Task at hand or whatever.
Yeah, we stop. We don't pay attention to our friends.
Yeah.
We should have caught it, but we didn't. I'm sorry, James. And she's like, I can understand if you need a bit more time. And he's like, why do I need more time? The job's done. The bitch is dead. I just
like, but you didn't realize that she was actually doing it because she loved you.
Yeah. I just, that whole sequence is so cool because it's one of those things where you very rarely in these movies you get an emotional bond.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever seem.
I mean, this Bond, he's human.
Yeah.
We see the scene of him like washing the blood off after he killed people, and we see him make mistakes. We see him kill people in front of other people, which is not something that a Bond should do. And then, you know, we see him so blinded by love that he doesn't even see actually what was going on.
He never even thinks about it. And
Yeah.
I love you see the switch turn in that line. You see it. He dies.
And that's
inside.
the best part is because he says, why would I need more time? The job's done. The bitch is dead. And the way he says it, it feels like he's a petty child.
Right.
Where you know there's something behind what he's saying. But that's never what you never get that from Bond.
This character grew so much in the film where at the very beginning he was very pretentious. He made a lot of mistakes that he wasn't cautious.
Right.
And we saw that several times with him losing the money or, you know, killing someone in front of a camera.
Right. Just executing a dude.
And then I think that Vesper actually made him grow up a lot and made him, you know, worried and care about another person. So he became, you know, more cautious.
She saved his life. It's not often where you literally see that, like,
She
you're
bargained.
dead. It's done.
Yeah.
You've lost. And he comes back to life.
Yeah.
She
I mean,
saved.
he wanted to not be Bond anymore.
And
he
also,
resigns.
and you find out that she bargained essentially her life for his life and saved him, which is awesome. I also really, really like when M says, well, I hope you learned your lesson. Just because, like, it's like such a harsh thing to say in that
but
moment.
it's so relevant.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
because
so true.
she's also kind of maternal in this situation where at the very beginning he was just being reckless with breaking into her house and about to reveal her name. And then,
love
you know, at the very end she's like, well, you know, look what happened.
Yeah.
I do one more syllable and I'll have you killed.
God, why couldn't they have just made more good James Bond movies? It's a real shame.
Hey, they're going to keep making
There's
them.
opportunity.
Yeah, they're
I
going to
know,
keep making them.
but he's such a good, like, this is such a good Bond, and he's such a good Bond.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the next good Bond movie. All right, well, I guess we should probably talk hero-villain ranking, right? We've all shared our favorite line.
Yeah, I don't know about the villain, but I think that this Bond has to rank on our list.
Oh, Casino
He's a
definitely
complete
does.
Badass.
Casino Bond for sure does. So the only thing that's missing here, this is slightly not updated.
Last week's.
Yes, exactly, because you put number 48, I believe. You had Aaron Cross from The Bourne Legacy, but I didn't have the updated file, so aside, it's a super low one. I think Bond's going to go a lot higher than that, I'm guessing. So what do you got for Bond? I mean, the villain...
Was that Jason?
La Chief?
Okay, Mads Mikkelsen is just terrifying.
Yeah.
Like,
He is.
I've interviewed him before, and, like, I was scared being in his presence, even though he's a really nice dude. But,
Right.
like, he's just one of those people that, like, he can never be anything other than a villain.
Yeah, he definitely has that look. Chris Cooper is kind of like one of those guys that looks like that guy.
I feel like we
Well,
should
he's
have
the
like
perfect Hannibal Lecter, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we should have like we should have done like top 5 villains with scars or something like that. That would have been like a super entertaining list.
It would have been Scar.
Yeah, from the
From
Lion King.
He's
No
the number
question.
one worst villain with a scar. All right, so oh my god, dude, I'm gonna have to redo my list again soon because I feel like it's getting out of sorts. But
Yeah. I think I know exactly where you're going.
I've got to put him ahead of Jason Bourne from Bourne Identity.
You're putting him at number 6 behind Ripley?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm gonna put him at 7 and move everyone down.
You're putting him ahead of Dutch?
Of course, I'm putting ahead of Dutch. I can't even speak English.
This cabin minister, does he always travel on the wrong side of the water?
I knew you were gonna try to get in somehow.
It's my
this way.
favorite line of the
it's
whole movie.
best. Bond.
It's been a long time, General. All right, pretty good. Yeah, I don't think the villains in this movie really make it for me, which is funny because you always say that you can't have a good action movie without a good villain.
I know.
And the villains in this movie are sort of
I mean, they're secondary or tertiary characters.
yeah, they're kind of irrelevant.
Essentially.
All right, so let's see here. Where do I put him?
I think it's because you feel the weight of the villain. When a lot of times in those movies, like in MI4, you don't really feel like it's the villain doing it. I don't know how to explain it.
It was more, I feel like, the idea of terrorism. Like, he was just the one that was funding it. So
Yeah.
he wasn't really, like, even though he put Vesper in the middle of the road, like, those kind of things happened, we didn't see him do it. So
Right.
I think that he wasn't as much of a threat in the audience's eyes.
Yeah, but the things that he did, right, made him good enough for me. Because him putting Vesper in the middle of the road, him not even saying one word when those dudes are about to cut off his girlfriend's arm.
I can't believe that this was a PG-13 movie,
Yeah,
too.
pretty intense.
It was very intense. But, like, he's just a shit. He's a shit weasel. He doesn't do anything.
Max called out your ranking. He said he's going to put him at number 4.
Max?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was very close. Very close. I wish my internet worked so that I could read these things.
I'm going to go number 12. He's behind John McClane. He's ahead of Martin Riggs. God, we just shit all over Lethal Weapon on this show. It's like the biggest apology I have to offer to our fans because I feel like the people who watch the show must be a fan base that really likes Lethal Weapon. Like, it would only make sense. And
Well, yeah, we like it too, but it's different.
It's just that Gary Busey is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Officer Murtaugh, don't be foolish.
Murtaugh, don't
Look
be
at the
foolish.
hardware.
All right, so we're gonna go into ranking our movie, like where we put it on the list of movies, and this has got to be pretty high for me.
Yeah, Casino's very high.
It's very, very good.
Yeah, let's mark. Did you mark down the numbers? You got it?
I wrote it down.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see. So, I can't believe you have Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3 at number 28.
It's the worst movie we've done on this show.
It's so offensive that that's behind Independence Day.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Who the only person offended in the whole world by that is you.
And John Travolta.
John Travolta wouldn't fucking care.
Because you think that movie's fucking awesome.
I think I'm gonna go 11. I'm gonna put it right in front of The Fugitive, but behind Mission Impossible 3.
Wow,
No,
this movie's better than The Fugitive for you?
No, it's better than Mission Impossible 3 too.
Wow, but it's not as good as Air Force One.
No, that movie has got a sweet place in my heart.
Well, luckily I have The Fugitive way higher than that. So, all right, fair enough. So where did I put? Oh yeah, I put The Fugitive super high. I had Looper. How did I put Looper so high? We need to redo these lists.
Yeah, I know. It's because every single week that we do a new movie that gets on the list, we just watched it.
Looper's
We're
ahead of
pumped
Mad
on it.
Max.
He doesn't like Mad Max.
No, I think Mad Max is great.
He hasn't watched it again. He doesn't think it's a good movie.
I just saw it the one time.
I bought a red jumpsuit so I could be the guitar player for Halloween, and that didn't end up
sweet.
happening. But
That's like one of the best characters. He's like one of the best tertiary characters in the history of movies. The guy's so memorable.
yeah.
All right, I think I'm gonna put Casino Royale at number 8, ahead of Looper, behind Die Hard.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
better
impressive.
than 3, Fugitive. Yeah, it's better than Minority Report, Mad Max,
Predator.
It's so brutal. It's better than Predator. Yeah, I
It
guess it
is,
is a
it
better
is.
movie. I hate it.
All right.
I want Predator to be like its own list.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
All right. So instead of our recast this week, guys, we're gonna do Bonds. We're gonna recast because 25 is coming out, and Daniel Craig is most likely gonna be. That'll probably be his last Bond movie, I believe. He's rumored to be in it, and I don't know if they're gonna kill him in it or if he's gonna be like the character in it, the main guy.
Yeah.
But 25 is coming up. Idris Elba's been in talks about it. So has Tom Hardy.
So
along
is
with-
David Oyelowo, right?
yeah. So
Say again.
Oyelowo?
Colin Trevor? David?
So same thing we did earlier in the show. Hashtag Master Caster at AMA Podcast. We're going to each give our top 3 for who we think could be the next Bond.
Okay.
Who we think could be or who we want to be?
Who we would like to have?
Huge
Yeah, that's
difference.
fine. Okay, we'll go who we would want to be that could be.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Who we would like to have as the next one. So I'm going to jump in. This is probably no surprise, and I almost didn't do it because of his physical size.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it.
But
And I already know who
Fassbender.
you're gonna say. Yeah.
Michael Fassbender is just such a badass. He's so like sharp and like he's like can do the physical stuff like Magneto. He was really good as, but he is a small guy, so it might really not work all that well. But I do really like the idea.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he was on my list as well, but then for the same reasons that you just said, I took him off.
Right. I think he would like. I'm imagining him saying Bond, James Bond, and I think he would just kill it.
He would.
Yeah, he would
Yeah.
be very good.
Bond.
So I am gonna go with my 3rd place. Actually, you know what, Kathy, you go first. You go first, please.
Well, my 3 in general is just Tom Hardy, and Tom Hardy.
I love it.
Awesome.
That's who I want.
Yeah.
And like it has to be.
Yeah, Tom Hardy is definitely on my list. He's who I want more than anyone.
That's
I don't
like yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he'll actually get it because I feel like there's something about him and he's becoming too big.
Right.
It does go back to that thing of, you know, he has a name, so is he really going to be James Bond or is he Tom Hardy playing James Bond?
Right, which is good for his career because he hasn't niched himself as any one specific character. Like Mad Max is not like, oh well, he's Mad Max now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Hardy's like on that. He's on that
Or
edge of
Inception.
exploding.
Yeah.
3 years from now, Tom Hardy probably won't be able to do this anymore because he'll be too massive.
Yeah.
But he's like right
I mean,
now.
he's massive right now.
Yeah, no, he's like huge right now. But it's like right now, if they were to say Tom Hardy is
Yeah.
going to be James Bond, like Tom Hardy doesn't have that character that is extremely iconic as a character.
Dude,
that
the
movie
Revenant
was big.
The
Yeah.
Revenant looks so insane.
Looks insane.
Yeah.
And another one that if Tom Hardy is not available, Benedict
needs to be.
Cumberbatch.
I like Benedict. I also had him
As
on my list.
Bond, I feel like I have a hard to imagine him as Bond. I can
I think you
imagine
need
him
to
as-
watch Sherlock or
I
the
have.
original. The original, you watch it?
Yeah, the show,
You,
yeah.
you don't think he could do it?
No, I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't be able. He's an amazing actor. I'm just sort of he doesn't look charming to me. Like he doesn't
Oh.
look like a James Bond. He feels more like a James Bond villain.
Well, sometimes people have opinions that are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just some things that happen sometimes.
Can you say that in a British accent, Kathy? Will you try it?
Sometimes people have some opinions. No.
That's worse than mine. That's
overthinking
worse
it.
than mine. Sometimes people have opinions that are wrong.
It's not gonna work. It's just not gonna
Just
happen.
let it
We're just
go.
gonna
Your
let it go.
opinion's wrong.
You're making it weird.
Ben Bateman.
All right, so other than Hardy, I had Hemsworth.
Which one?
Chris.
Oh.
Yes, Chris Hemsworth. Why don't you go ahead and speak your words since you have this stupid look on your face?
Okay, that's fine.
No, I'm asking your opinion. I want to know why.
Thor.
You have this look on your
Well,
face.
the reason that I had that look on my face is because I went with the other person
You went
from.
Liam?
No, I went with Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki in Thor. So I went the other
Really?
side of it. Yeah.
Okay, I'd probably make the same face. That
Yeah,
you did
exactly.
for me,
But just because you said it, and I was like, I had thought Hemsworth, and
Yeah.
that's why Hiddleston came to mind when you said it. And I was like, interesting. I really didn't think of Chris
He might
Hemsworth.
be a little too pretty.
Chris
I feel like
Hemsworth?
he
Yeah.
is too pretty.
Yeah.
But my
And he's
number,
almost like too big of a dude.
Well, see, that's the thing is with Tom Hardy and Hemsworth, I feel like they both need to cut down weight, whereas
Yeah.
like Craig had to put on 20 pounds.
Right.
I think they could take off 20 pounds and they'd look better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Tom Hardy's probably my favorite still, but the person I think should do it more than anyone else,
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's really good. He's so dark.
He's the age. He's got the accent. We all know he can clean up. We all know he can be charming and a
Yeah.
badass. We've seen American Psycho.
Charming on screen, not necessarily.
Yeah,
behind the
Not
scenes.
behind the scenes. He's not known for that.
He almost like I would have a hard time watching him be charming and not thinking of him just as American
Like
Psycho.
wanting to murder somebody.
I think exactly.
Right.
He's like because he's so dark and sinister so much of the time, and he's so moody and brooding. I sort of imagined him
Could
in like
be a
s-
villain.
Yeah, he almost would be better as a villain. Like him trying to. But then again, Bond is a spy. He's a stone cold killer.
He's a hitman. He's an assassin.
As Daniel Craig says when he was so one of the coolest things we didn't mention this is that when he was on the set for Munich, he was talking to a lot of like Secret Service and
right, yeah.
and like SAS, and he was like, you meet these guys and you look in their eyes and they look like killers. Like you can see in their eyes that they've killed people, and they walk into a room and the first thing they're doing is they're checking for exits.
Right.
And that's like that's what I wanted to bring to this Bond, which he did. And you have to sort of think like, who do you trust? Is like, and yeah, Bale he has that evil streak.
I feel like he has the same type of feel that Craig has, that Brosnan didn't.
Yeah.
Brosnan was never intimidating.
He's never dangerous.
Whereas like Craig, you were like, what is this guy gonna do?
Brosnan's just suave.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
just the smoothest dude in the 90s.
And he looked very good in a tuxedo.
He looked very good.
Yeah. All right, my number 3 is handwriting that I can't read. Oh, my number 3 is Clive Owen. This is my accent. That's the accent that I've been doing all day.
Is the
Look at what they make you give.
Stop.
You guys don't love Clive Owen?
We don't like your accent of Clive Owen.
And you guys don't like Keira Knightley? You don't agree with me on anything?
It's not that
You
we
think
don't
Clive Owen
like
could
her.
do it? You think Clive Owen could do it?
You should
Totally.
have Clive Owen and
Yeah.
Keira Knightley
In the film together.
Yeah.
In the film together.
No one. I can't believe you've done that accent through this whole show. It's
I've
incredible.
stuck with it the whole time.
Yeah, that's definitely a commitment.
What was that? What was the, like, I feel like there was like something that we used that accent for. I don't remember what it was.
You use that accent
This
for
whole
anyone
show.
British. Yeah. For the last hour and a half, you use it.
Can we just picture for a second though, Tom Hardy and Alicia Vikander?
Are we talking? My house?
I remember what it was now. It was the voice that I did with that one improv scene we did.
That would be the greatest thing I've ever
That
said
would
in
be
my life.
like I would pay for a ticket before it's even shot.
Years in advance.
Tom
Yeah.
Hardy and Alicia Vikander?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, fair. I mean, I love Tom Hardy. Like, of
And
course.
you love Alicia Vikander.
You love Alicia Vikander.
And Zoe Kravitz can be the girl like right before.
The one that dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sure,
I'm
guys.
into it. What were you going to say?
That improv scene, I just remember what it was, where the voice came from. Where the girl's dancing, and I was the British Secret Service guy, and I was like, I love the way you dance for me.
That's just your British accent, though. It doesn't matter. All right, guys. So we do a thing on this show. Ben, you want to tell them about it?
Yeah, we do this thing. It's called Cage versus Cruise. Sometimes when we
No.
have a little bit of extra time.
What category is this damn movie?
We choose 3 categories. There's totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate. Basically, totally ridiculous is like it falls off a cliff of absurdity. It's just a joke. It's awesome, but it's a joke. That's like Face Off or Con Air that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have totally legitimate, which are movies like Terminator 2 or The Fugitive, where they're just very legit. There's really not much about it that's funny. It's just kind of awesome the whole way through. And then you have ridiculously legitimate, which are movies that are sort of like this hybrid category. Really compelling, generally speaking, have at least one great performance. They're engaging the whole way through, but there's some unintentional comedy because they're kind of silly action movies.
Right.
A lot of the movies we do on the show end up that way, and we almost look for those movies intentionally. That's
Some
like
of our favorites. The
Yeah.
Rock, Predator.
yeah, The Rock, Predator, like Speed, Point Break.
Mm-hmm.
So, which of the 3 categories do you guys think this movie fits into?
Totally legit.
Yeah, I think there's no question.
That's yeah.
Yeah,
as
it's,
well.
it's not
Yeah.
debatable.
It's like not. There's nothing about
That's
it
like the whole
silly.
point of what this movie was supposed to be for the franchise. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be completely grounded in reality.
And it's nice to know though that like even though these movies take themselves very seriously and they try to be that way, like Spectre would have been ridiculously legitimate. To
Yes,
me.
absolutely.
Because Spectre was
Even
kind of
Skyfall was kind of like that.
kind of absurd,
Yeah.
and like they try to be. So it's like it's good to know that every movie that comes out is trying to be legit. It's just that, and sometimes the ones in retrospect, like those movies from the 80s and 90s, it's easy to sort of because they've aged.
Right, you just put them in that
Yeah.
category.
But we've done enough of these movies on the show that sometimes you can just pull it out.
Yeah.
Rabbit out of a hat. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode and
Right.
for this movie. But guys, we are doing something new on this show. This is a thing we're going to be introducing for the
What?
very first time. And this is a thing called the pitch. So the idea is that you guys watch the show, and every week we do a movie. We usually choose the movie 2 or 3 days before we decide to do it on the show. We do all our
Right.
prep and we watch it. But it doesn't give you as an audience very much time to watch the movie. So if you've seen it and you like it and you watch the show, get into it. But now we are going to start pitching you guys the movie the week beforehand so you know exactly what you're going to watch next week.
This is
Smart.
correct.
It's very good, right?
Yeah.
Smart. You're getting real smart, kid.
This is kind of a unique one. Today is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to
God,
everybody.
we're really going to try to make this correlation.
And Thanksgiving is coming up, and neither of those things entirely relate to what we're doing, but they're kind of related, at least in tone. So we are doing a film from 1999 called The Patriot with Mel Gibson next week.
I love this movie.
I've never seen The
I
Patriot.
know, and that's why I'm even more excited to talk about it. Ben has never seen this movie. I've been trying to get him to watch it over and over and over. And thank God for Veterans Day so that we could make this
Thank God for
skewed
Veterans Day.
correlation to watch this movie. But it's so sweet.
The elevator pitch. Give us the 30-second pitch. Why do we need to watch The Patriot?
Okay, so I'm a big one on revenge stories.
Yeah.
I love revenge stories, and I also love classic war epics.
Yeah.
So this movie it's got the same feel as movies from the 90s, where it's going to be ridiculously legitimate at most.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
At best,
At best, that's what it is.
Second Mel Gibson movie we've ever done on the show.
What was the first one?
Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yeah, Lethal Weapon. So, you kidding me? Like, tomahawk and knife fighting from a dude that was trained by Indians in, like, forest battles. Heath Ledger's in it for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Cooper's in it. Tom Wilkinson's in it.
People wanted to give this movie some sort of legitimacy because he had directed Braveheart 4 years prior, but it's just like a straight 90s trash action movie.
This movie is not trash. It is so sweet.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, you haven't seen it. And
shut your mouth.
And, like, the way that what happens with, like, his son's dying in the beginning and his way to, like, get back.
Yeah.
To avenge them, and the villain is great. Like, he's that. I wish I could remember his name because he's kind of that faceless bad guy that he's perfect. Like, he's the perfect bad guy. Yeah, it's perfect, man. You're gonna love the movie. It fits our show to a T. It's incredibly entertaining. Gibson he has like a few psycho screams in it.
Yeah,
where he goes like full on crazy.
Like MacGruber screams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the best. I guess we have our schedule for the next two. We could also pitch. We could pitch both, right? Like. We won't pitch the other one. We'll spend like the week after pitching it, but we'll at least give the heads up. So we will do the Patreon next week, and the week following. I know this breaks the rules a little bit, guys, but it's such a good movie,
and it's our show.
We're doing Rocky 4.
Gotta do Rocky 4.
Drago! Yeah.
You will lose.
Yeah, if he dies, he dies. It's gonna be so good. I can't wait.
I'm surprised more accents.
I'm surprised he didn't go. If he dies, he dies.
It's going to be a great episode. So, guys, if you want to check that out, please tune in the next 2 weeks. Next week is The Patriot. Watch it. Get in on it with us. We're also going to do a live watch-along very soon on some movie. I'm not sure which one.
We might try to do it next week for Rocky 4 for you guys to watch along with us for the following week.
We'll, definitely... But if you want to know about that stuff and, where to find it, be sure to follow the Twitter, at AMA Podcast. We share everything on there. And if you guys want to find any of us personally, you can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find me at Andrew Ghai on Instagram.
Twitter.
I don't have Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter at Catherine Kelley and on Instagram at Cathy Kelley.
She did the laugh again. It was the same laugh.
God, I'm killing it.
Yeah, you nailed it.
It's just because she wants to get off the show so she can go eat her chicken.
2 shows
hungry.
in a row. All right, sweet. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That was amazing. We love all of you. We will see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.